Page 115. This is the start of Unit 9. If you've made it this far, congratulations. If you've been skipping things, I encourage you to go back through the book again. Actually, it wouldn't hurt you just to go back and review everything anyway, because we're just going to keep adding stuff. If you're struggling, then by all means, go back through the book again. Go through the lessons again. Review everything. Okay. Having done that, I'm going to assume we're ready to go on and learn new stuff. On page 114, they're introducing a contraption called a chromatic scale. And the scales, we have scales, major and minor scale. Well, there are all kinds of other scales too. I don't teach any of the other scales. You just, when you run across them in the music, you deal with them. The chromatic scale is another one I don't teach because it's like a circle. It doesn't really have a starting point. It's like in C major, we can start on C and end on C. Those scales, they have a starting point. It's the name of the scale. A chromatic scale has no starting point because it uses all the keys. You can start on any key and end on any key, anywhere in it. It's still a chromatic scale. All it is you're going up or down the keyboard in half steps. That is, you're using all the keys. So start on any note. Start an F and I just hear. That's a chromatic scale. Or going down, same difference. Chromatic scale. As far as the fingering goes, well, look out. Most of the time you'll use third finger. Not all the time. They teach all the time? No. Most of the time you use third finger on the black keys. And you'll use 1 or 2 on the white keys. When you have 2 white keys next to each other, then you have to use 1 and 2 together. Otherwise, you use thumb on them. Here. But basically, that's it. However, when you get it in music, you'll get chromatic passages, and they won't be maybe just, if you look at page 115, the last 2 lines, measure 11 and measure 15, those are chromatic passages. You're going up here. That's a chromatic passage. Well, when you get them, they may be long, they may be short like this one, who knows. But the fingering you use in the music could be completely different. Let's say here on measure 11, they will have a 1, 2, they're using a chromatic fingering. The third finger on the black keys, and 1 and 2 on these. Well, I could change that. And I could say, let's say I have it here. I put thumb here and cross over. Now I could just 2, 3, 4. I could finger it that way too. So when you get it in music, the fingering is liable to be whatever the music needs and is more comfortable for you. And so don't be locked into it. Now when you practice a chromatic, if you're going to practice it, go ahead and use the fingering they're showing here. There's also another fingering where you can use the 4th finger on a black key. Don't worry about that right now. Just use the fingering they've got there, the 3rd finger on all the black keys. At the bottom of the page, they have the 1 octave chromatic scale, played several times daily. Well, forget that. It's like any other scale. You can play it. I don't know that I would play it. You can play it once a day if you want to just get into the practice of it. Just whatever other scale you're working on, the major and minor scale, just go ahead and start on that key for the chromatic scale and do that. So if I'm doing C major, like Village Dance, is that C major? So I'm going to do the C major and the A minor scales. Well, I'll just do the chromatic scale starting on C. And A for A minor. Both hands. Now you don't have to do them hands together. You can just do it one hand at a time for a while, and then eventually you'll get to where you can put the hands together. Eventually. Now you don't go that fast. You take it at the speed you're going to take the scales. You do this the same and do the same accent and the wrist drop and everything like you do with the scale you do here too. Now let's talk Village Dance. We got this 4 lines long. Treble and bass clef, 4/4 time, no sharps or flats in the key signature. We are in the key of C major, so make sure you do the C major scale and the A minor scale. I already talked about that and stuff. Rhythm-wise, I don't see a big problem here. Let's cover the fingering and all. Right hand, you're starting here. I'm not going to stay here, but you're starting here. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then on the other, you're taking advantage of repeated notes to change hand positions. The third finger. And then reach up 2, and you do that some more. That's fun. Measure 11. Again, this is that chromatic scale, and it looks ugly. If you just take it one note at a time, generally with a chromatic scale in the music, when it goes up, they'll use sharps. When it goes down, they'll use flats, and you'll get used to seeing that. So we simply have an E, F, F sharp. The F sharp is already there. We don't need a G flat here because the F sharp was already there. So that from earlier in the measure, it's still an F sharp, so that's fine. Then an F natural. That works out fine. And on measure 15, same thing. You hear they say second finger. You can start on thumb if you'd rather. But okay. You've got sharps, and then going down. We don't need an E flat going down. The D sharp from before, earlier in the measure, is still good. So it's still a D sharp. And the same with the C. The C sharp from before still applies, so it's still a C sharp. So we didn't need flats going down in this case because the accidentals going up still applied. That's fine. And the left hand, we got broken chords. C chord, measure 5, it's a 4 chord, except you got the flat in there. Now, if this doesn't work for you, you can do that. I'll leave that up to you and the size of your hand on how big. If you can finger it in the book that way they show it, that's fine. Go for it. And that's really the left hand. So when you put them together, when they come together, you're here. I know that sounds wonderful, but just go with it. And then for measure 11, it's at 1 and 2 N. And then the last line. Okay, there is a repeat sign, and we're going to play it twice, and there is a note at the top, second time 8 VA. It is above the upper staff, therefore it only applies to that staff. Left hand doesn't move. That's why the note is there and not at the beginning of the line, because it doesn't apply yet. So when you repeat, instead of here, you're up here. But the left hand's right where it is. The left hand is fine. And you can play the whole thing with the right hand up here. Now, articulation, they don't give you a lot. There's a few slurs here. That's fine. If you want to do that, you can separate before and after the slur. If you want. There's nothing to, I mean, you could if you want to connect them. See, I usually connect the pickup note to what follows it, because it leads into it. It leads into it. And on even at measure 5, the note right before, the G, that leads into it. I usually connect those rather than separate it. I don't like that sound. To me, that's rather unmusical to do that. So I typically connect the lead in or the pickup notes. And then you lift up. Lift up. These are phrases. These are nice here. And then the measure 11, you connect that, of course. You have an accent on measure 14. Give it a little extra. And same thing in the last line and the last measure, an accent. Okay, now just a little bit about articulation marks. Sometimes they give you slurs and sometimes they don't. And I've noticed in this book a lot of times they won't give you slurs over repeated notes. You can. I don't know why they're not doing it. I guess it's because you can't really connect a repeated note, but just try. You get as close as you can. However, keep in mind that when they don't give you anything, you have a lot of choice as to what you can play them staccato. If I will. But when they give you the slur, you don't have a choice. You have to connect them. So that those two notes are slurred. Otherwise, you might want to disconnect it. Or I could slur it. There's all kinds of ways of articulating it. But when they give you the slur, that limits you a little bit. Even although you still have a lot of choice. But you have to slur those. But the others, it's up to you. So when they give you a slur, connect it. Otherwise, you may or may not connect it. Left hand, they don't give you anything, so it's your choice. Experiment. See what you think. Connect them. Try them slightly disconnected. It's kind of fun. It gives you a little change, a little difference. Or you can mix it up. Sometimes you connect it and sometimes you don't. What do you think about that? This has a statement reply form to it where you have a statement. There it goes. And then a reply. Statement. Reply. So maybe I disconnect on one and connect on the other just for contrast. So at the beginning, you have to experiment with it. And it's really up to you on what you like and your taste, because the music doesn't say anything. So choose. Or your teacher will choose for you, and that's fine too. Dynamics apply to the melody. That's the right hand. You're starting out here soft, they're telling you, because there is no melody here. You're going to go up to about a moderately loud. That's all. And then when the right hand comes in, that's loud. The left hand stays in the background. Now measure 11. You come down to moderately loud. Go up. It's a swell. You swell up and back down. You really kind of feel it. The left hand has to stay in the background. And then crescendo. I don't know that you need an accent there, but yeah, it's loud there. And then come back down to moderately. For measure 15, come back down to moderately loud. It doesn't say to, but do it. Yeah. And then crescendo again. Like so. That's the dynamics. Get to know it well enough you can feel these dynamics and get into it. Because you could add other dynamics. You could alter these slightly. It doesn't say much. It's like here. I could put in just a very slight crescendo in those repeated G's. Where that louder. See, it's typical too in interpreting music where if you have a longer note, like the dotted half note in measure 4, you play those a little louder. You don't have to accent them. You just feel it a little louder because they're longer notes. And then come down off the phrase. You come down a little bit moderately loud there and then go back up. Come down now. So you can do more with these dynamics once you get into it and start experimenting and getting into the music and feeling the music. And speed, well, lively. It has to be correct though, so don't get too carried away with the lively. I mean, what you find the hardest part in it, probably this chromatic thing, or how fast can you play that accurately and evenly. And that's your lively for this piece. As you get better with piano, you can come back and play through these pieces again for the fun of it, and you'll find you can play them faster and better. And that's okay. like to play this with you slowly. Let's double check the notes and the rhythms and all. I'm not going to do any dynamics. We will repeat it, and I'm going to go up an octave in the right hand when we do that. So I'll give us 4 counts. Let's just play it together slowly. 1, 2, ready, go. Repeat.